Welcome back, everybody, to another episode here of Gregtech Community Edition Modern. Last time we ended up getting ourselves a bauxite slurry system to be able to process bauxite down all the way into the rutile and get as much of it as we can for making our titanium ingots. Just so you know, this episode's going to be a little bit different, as I ended up finding out later that my microphone wasn't recording, even though I had it set up earlier today to be able to do so. Something happened. It was muted or something, and it wasn't coming through on the recording. A little bit frustrated because I haven't really changed much of any settings in there, but I guess something happened with settings and it got changed. But here I go through. We're going to go ahead and look at the bauxite recipes. I just wanted to show that with today's episode, we're going to get into getting ourselves some sodium persulfate automated, because it's the best way to get ourselves the gallium, and gallium is required even way later in the game, much more than Grolosar ever will be, as the components that Grolosar is are found in a lot of other things. But we are looking at sodium bisulfate, which the best way to get that is either through salt or sodium hydroxide, which we can electrolyze salt water to get that. However, I'm not looking at just getting the sodium persulfate. I was also looking at automating both hydrochloric acid as well as iron chloride 3. And because both of those things are necessary for a lot of the other recipes that you end up getting to later on, especially the iron chloride 3, being vital to every recipe that you're required to make PCB boards, whether it be the good boards that we're making currently in what we're doing right now, or even using them to make our epoxy boards in the next tier once we get to those. I'm pretty sure it's used in pretty much everyone after this, even on top of that. So it's one of those that, like, you might as well just make sure that you've got a automatic feed of all of that stuff coming in. So we do end up having to go back and grab some batteries, because if I do that without batteries, I'll get out there, but I won't have the battery power to get back. So we go ahead and zoom on out to where I did find some called saltwater, a saltwater bedrock fluid deposit. Right there, or a little bit earlier, I was trying to show off that that wand was not what I was hoping it to be. Kind of hoping it would go a lot further than it does, but definitely not so. There is a range enchantment you can get onto it. I don't know how far that extends the range, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be 1,500 blocks all the way over to the place where we're at. So it's probably going to be much better once I build into that void zone and have long stretches of different machinery that I can just kind of teleport around to the different sections that I might need to get into. So, but I don't want to do that until making fluid ender duct links is a much more readily available process, as the fluids are the biggest problem with trying to get around. So here I end up pulling out some different my building gadget, so I can try to get a platform built up pretty quickly. It does take a second because I end up messing up quite a bit, but we're going to build out a little platform so we can put out our very first iteration of the drill rigs that will allow us to take take the salt water out of the bedrock fluid vein. One of the things I do enjoy about building stuff like this is once you really want to go crazy, you can go crazy and build out something pretty fun. However, trying to get as much of this done as I can, I don't want to do too much of the building, as kind of ends up taking away from the learning some new stuff with this. Although I do think I could enjoy some time with that. I just don't know if you guys would want to watch an episode of maybe montage building. I'd have to get another account in to be able to, like, do a camera thing with it, but I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if you do want to actually see a building video of building out some cooler, larger structure instead of like simple, small functional ones like I'm working on right now. But I'll just go ahead and cut it here, and we'll come back once I got that platform built. So, be right back. Now we've got our platform finished, and we're going to go ahead and place down fluid rig. I ended up doing HV buses on this one. I have actually set up the nitrobenzene tank with an ender fluid linked just so that we have a way of putting power out to the far out areas without having to take a barrel that'll eventually empty out, and we'll have problems with feeding that barrel at some point. So, especially since this is a far more permanent structure than just a simple mining drill, digital miner, whatever it was. Can't remember what the name of it is off the top of my head, not being in the game to be able to check on that. We do set up both of the ender links, one for the output, and that one is our salt water. I have that one labeled. It doesn't have any fluid in there. I don't understand how the labels work. It doesn't seem to work the way I want it to, which is kind of frustrating because I've tried to set it up so that I get a description on the different like the different areas, but every single time I do, it just doesn't want to take it to the description of where it's at, so I'm just kind of giving up on it at the moment. But it does look like every time that it does go off, it's going to give us about 150-ish millibuckets of water, which is really good, because that means about every 10 seconds we'll get one full amount of salt water to be able to use. And I decided to end up just teleporting back, because I realized that's going to be way faster than flying. So not much of the battery was really needed, but it does help out. Don't actually have a drill currently in the end, as we have so much of the stuff that we get from the end. Had to reorient and get some different things from the nether, actually. So I got one of the veins that gives me iron, and only iron. And right here, you'll see that I don't know what's going on with this. I set up an additional filter to allow the hematite to go in through some tubes that feeds into that crate, and it's just not going into the crate. So I'm probably going to either have to manually move it over or figure something out, because it's just not wanting to go. Maybe it's that it's on the pipe that the pump is supposed to go through. Maybe I have to move it to another pipe so it can actually try to go through it, but something's up with it, and it just doesn't seem to want to work properly, and it's frustrating. But, I mean, I can figure that out later. I even, see, I do a couple quick troubleshooting. Try to get myself some, like, on again, off again type of deals, and it just, I don't know what it is. It's just not seeming to work. But if you guys understand what's going on here, I even checked there. I'm like, can you smelt that stuff? Does it work? Is it like... So I don't know. I don't know if there's an NBT tag issue, maybe. I didn't check that button, but it should be working just fine, because I even took the whole stack out to try to set it up, and it just doesn't want to take it. See, I even try to disconnect, reconnect, maybe. No, nothing any which way there. Might try popping it off with the crowbar and replacing it later. I think if that's the issue, maybe it just needs a reset of the pipes to go, hey, by the way, you can go there. But now we can show off our salt water's coming in. This is the issue I had. I did set up an electrolyzer to try to electrolyze the water to help give an additional boost of hydrogen, as we are running not low, but like it is definitely lower than max, as we've been using it throughout the process to make both like nitrobenzene. What was it? We were making something. Ammonia. That's what it was. The ammonia, saying you should be able to try to make sure you can keep up with the ammonia production. Well, clearly it's not keeping up. So I have set it up so that it will be able to not have that later on in the episode. We'll end up seeing that as I take that out, because it's just not fast enough to be able to keep getting more salt as we get more salt water in. I am going to probably have to set up some new fluid pumps in the future, as definitely running a lot slower than I want to by the end of the episode. But here we end up going and grabbing ourselves the chemical reactor and electrolyzer so we can automate our hydrochloric acid as well as the sodium persulfate. Sodium persulfate. As that was the other goal of this episode, was to get both of those set up, as well as the final one, which will happen a little bit later, of the iron chloride 3. And one of the nice things is because we actually have it set up in such a way where we don't need to, what's it called? We don't need all these pipes all over the place. We can actually just kind of slot things in downstairs. Well, it turns into a bit of a spaghetti monster, I will admit. But one of the things is that pretty soon this will be out of sight, out of mind. So, you know what? No worries how spaghetti it looks. It's not too bad of an issue. I mean, I'd rather have that issue than not have the stuff to begin with, right? So, one of those things, it turns out to be much better to actually have the items that you want rather than to be like, oh, well, I don't have what I need. We need to make some more. Oh, I gotta go get some more. I gotta go find some more. I gotta go do more. So, clearly better for us to have the stuff on hand than it is to not have it on hand. One of the other things, I don't know if I got them all processed through, but the chlorine from all of the rock salt, I should say, is probably what's in the other thing out there. It did also fix, well, fix might be a strong word. We'll have to take a look at actually letting it run for a while. I fixed the polytetrafluoroethylene pipes. I don't know if you're able to actually notice it in here, but when you go down there, basically the problem I was having is it was voiding because it was acid, and I totally had the fluid filters set wrong because I just didn't understand how they work. But after interacting with them a couple different times, you kind of learn how they work and be able to actually make them go what you want to go and solve your problems that way. So, quite nice to find out that we do have a way to solve that issue. But here I ended up having to craft up a few more gas turbines, as we were kind of running low on the turbines that we needed for energy. So I got those started on crafting. And then we go into our... Where is it? Oh, we were starting to look at the sodium bisulfate? I think that's what it was. The sodium hydroxide, that's what it was. Okay. Yeah, so we're going and looking at the sodium hydroxide and how it's actually quite useful. So we are definitely going to have to run something that's going to be able to help output a lot more salt water. So we'll probably get directly into something where we start making our way towards new drilling rigs. So we can probably put up one or two of the secondary drilling rigs, as the other downside to the one that we currently used is it depletes the vein at 100% rate. Where one of the things that is key and nice about the second tiers, I believe it's a 60, it's either a 60 or an 80% depletion rate. So it's a lot faster. I end up cutting out an area over here to place down both of the machines to start with our hydrochloric acid as well as our sodium persulfate. Actually, even thinking about the chemical compound, oh, that's right, it's persulfate because it's got sulfur in it. That's so weird. I would like to kind of like figure out why the names of different things are what they are. That's one of the reasons I can remember them a lot better, though, is because you have the different names of, like, hey, like this is like the sodium. The reason I keep thinking it's sodium bisulfate is I was thinking like it's got two sulfur molecules with it, but it doesn't. But yeah, so like the sodium hydroxide made a whole lot of sense. It was easy to remember throughout, like, thinking about the episode I was talking about it, even though, you know, my mic was muted, so you couldn't actually hear anything. But it was just easy to remember that, hey, it's sodium and then it's hydroxide because it's got hydrogen and oxide with it. Oxygen, you know. It's when you start to get to things like methane or propane where I'm just kind of like, okay, this is a combination. This is like a carbon. Can't remember the name because I'm trying to think of it now. That's the problem I've always had with things. But it's a hydrocarbon. That's what it's called. It's a hydrocarbon. But the exact chemical makeup of the hydrocarbon kind of always ends up being something that slips my mind, as it's like there's no definitive way to be like, hey, this is what it is, like H2O and H2O2, stuff like that, where you're like, hydrogen peroxide is hydrogen per oxide. So for every hydrogen atom, you have one. I just think it's kind of interesting. I honestly wonder, maybe that's why it's hydrogen per sulfate. Is it one hydrogen per? That actually makes me want to kind of like look that up. I actually do so right now since we're recording some audio over the original one. Hydrogen persulfate. 808, sorry. It's 08. I mean, that's that's a specific variant, but I guess that's what it is. Typically known as in chemistry as per oxymonosulfuric acid. Interesting. Kind of unique tidbits that you can end up looking up that like it blows my mind that Minecraft ends up getting you to the point where you're like, oh, like this is what I could learn from this stuff if I take the time to actually sit down and learn it together. But I find it a little bit wild that like you can learn so much from it. I just had an issue, so we'll be right back for just a second. All right, we were right back. Just had an issue with my video editing software. Kind of like wigged out on me. I'm like, no, I need to know what's going on here. So, had to do some cutting of some stuff here. Actually, just realized I didn't even need to do that because I clipped out the clip of me building that stuff. Okay. So I know we're in the process of making ourselves the sulfuric acid. I think I went down and I look. Oh, I'm just looking at stuff while I look at the sodium bisulfate, and then yeah, sodium bisulfate. Okay, that is exactly what I thought it is. The dust is sodium bisulfate. Yeah, we're getting it set up so that we can now make our hydrochloric acid. We've already got. We're just waiting on a robotic arm, I believe. Pumps, one of the two. But we had to change the amount of salt that we had supplied in there, and the bucket of sulfuric acid is perfectly fine. I could switch out the pumps that I used for fluid regulators, which would kind of help stem the flow a little bit. But I'd rather have stuff backed up in the machines and ready to just pull out. And because items can pull out really quickly where fluids take a second, I'd rather have it just be ready to go when it needs to make that next batch. I do find it a little bit annoying, and I don't know if fluid regulators would fix this problem. But I do find it annoying that you have to slap it up against the interface to actually draw it out from the... You can't actually use it on the machine to pull it from any of the other on it. I do have to go back and forth quite a bit here, as the thing I was not ready for was robotic arms, because I kind of forgot about the auto-crafting side of things. I was originally just going to have it be like patterns that, you know, you have it automatically craft this stuff, and then I'm like, wait, I want all this stuff on demand. It already takes long enough to make good circuits. It already takes long enough to make all of these other items that I really do not want to have to wait forever for these different things to get processed, as like it's... I can't remember exactly the timing. I think it's like 24 seconds for a good circuit from the good board. Like you get the good board, and then it's not even the board. You get the PCB sheet from any of the recipes, and that thing, it takes 24 seconds in and of itself. Then you need another 24 seconds to actually make it into the board. So with it already being something like a 48-second craft time, I'm like, I really don't want to wait the additional however much it takes to get through from the sulfuric acid into enough hydrogen chloride so that we can then have our iron chloride made. Just doesn't feel worth it. And then obviously the other thing is the hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen. Oh, I keep tripping up every single time I go to say that because I think I always second guess myself, especially when I get things right. That's when I second guess myself the most, is when I'm actually right on something. But we get our first hydrogen persulfate batch out into the tanks, which is awesome. And then I'm going to go ahead and proceed to get our iron chloride set up, which we're going to come back and we're going to nick this machine from the back here. And I will have to set up an auto craft card at some point to macerate iron down into what we need it to be, so that it can go, so that it can make more of the stuff. The only thing is, I don't know if I want the macerator to be clogged up with iron all the time, so I might have to make something where I just go like, oh hey, I need some more iron chloride 3. Oh, like, let's go ahead and macerate up like a stack or two of iron dust. Or maybe I just filter out iron dust from whatever we can get it from. Say if it's iron dust, it needs to go just straight into the supply instead of getting smelted, so that it can actually be used for this kind of processing. Maybe I'll do that. Get that out of the list of stuff that gets smelted. But as you can see, we got the whole system up and running. I did want to check on the speed, and the thing I did notice by the end of the episode is that the speed on the electrolyzer for the sodium persulfate recipe, it's a little slow. It will get backed up over time, but one of the things that's been nice about this whole process, we actually start replenishing our hydrogen. That was one of the things that making our ammonia was starting to drain on quite a bit. And that's why it's really good to have the backup of, what was that, 8,000 buckets, I guess is what those things are supposed to hold. So the backup of 8,000 buckets worth of hydrogen, plus the amount that you're making on top of that, allows for you to have that margin of error where, oh, well, I don't have enough hydrogen to supply it when it comes down to straight manufacturing. Well, doesn't matter, because I have enough. Because we have enough in surplus to last us until we actually need to get it the next time. But I end up going back to grab some fluid filters. I didn't even think about this until later, but I realized we don't need fluid filters on the void fluid, or the fluid void, because, one, the sodium persulfate doesn't produce water like I thought it did. It produces hydrogen. And for some reason, I kept thinking that it was producing water. I have no clue why, but I kept thinking it. And then the other one that I had planned on putting it on, which I did put it on, it produces salt and water, which, again, don't need the filter. There is no other fluid that is outputting. I did manage to put it on there, though, anyways, as I'm a little bit worried that, like, for some reason, something glitches out and it starts interacting with the input side. Don't think it will, but with how glitchy I've seen Minecraft in the past, I don't trust it, don't want it to by chance start voiding the salt water, because then we're just burning power for no reason. There's no reason to just burn power for absolutely nothing. But this is where I start to notice that our sodium is actually backing up. And the main problem that this causes is if the sodium's backing up, we run into the problem that our electrolyzers backing up with sodium is going to make it so where we don't have enough hydrochloric acid coming out to sustain our iron chloride makeup. So we're going to start running low on the iron chloride, the hydrochloric acid, once we start getting into that. I guess I didn't notice it here. I didn't notice it until a little bit later, but that was something I did notice when we were getting into it. I did set it up, again, just mashing machines into the spaghetti monster, but really I should get to making that void base so that I can set up stuff far enough apart that things can start to get processed either in large chemical reactors so that we can upgrade them easier by just going, hey, slap on a new energy thing and change our energy pipes, our energy wires to the next tier so that we can straight up upgrade right away instead of having to be like, okay, got to pick up this machine and build a new one, pick up this one, build a new one, pick it. And then the other part about doing that is not only does it make it faster, you can scale it a whole lot easier when you have a whole lot more space to scale it. And one of the things that could be pretty nice is if I could have a hallway filled with the large chemical reactors, I can stack them on top of each other. Not directly on top of each other, but I could do something like a couple block spaces so that we could be able to have them stacked high and be like, hey, I need another thing to make more iron chloride 3 because we're running low. We're not able to make them fast enough. Probably not the place I'm going to be using that, but one thing to think about. One of the things I am starting to deplete a little bit as it's used in so many areas is sulfuric acid. Especially when I need to start pulling some out so I could make some more circuit boards. But this does allow me to actually get into the automation of circuit boards, which means I might really need to think about upgrading to another thing to make myself some more sulfuric acid. I will say, I did try off camera to upgrade it to an IV tier machine, but oh boy, does it use power so fast. I forgot that, like, it doesn't use twice as much power when you put a second HV hookup on there. It uses 4 times as much power. So I set it up with the 2 HV generators, and oh boy, didn't even get to a recipe. It does times 4. I did forget about that. It does times the speed of the recipe by 4, as it does end up giving you, I think they called it perfect overclock in those chemical multi-block chemical reactors, so that if you do upgrade the tiers, instead of doubling the speed for 4 times the energy, it quadruples the speed for 4 times the energy. So you get the perfect overclock, is what they said. I think here is where I decide to take away the here's where I decided to take away this machine, because I'm like, it's not going to do anything for me. It's literally not fast enough. It's going to clog up the system and cause me not to get the salt that I need fast enough, which is going to, like I said earlier, slow down the rate at which I produce salt. And if I don't produce enough salt, I can't produce enough sulfuric acid or use it for other things. Now, it does make it so that we end up using the salt water a lot slower, or a lot faster. So I can't use it in multiple machines now. However, again, I can just build another thing, have another fluid link set up to make the other product that I need to make. So, but I did actually manage, this is one of the nice things, I did set it up so that I have all of the stuff to make the multi-block structures auto-craftable. That will end up changing things a whole lot, as I did have to run around up until this point. I had to run around and make sure the rods were getting crafted, the plates were getting crafted, the different things, and all of that manner were getting crafted. But thank you guys here for watching. Next time we'll get ourselves into our EV machines. I'm actually checking because I forgot what the next tier was, as it's been a while since I've gotten into another tier. But again, thank you guys for watching very much. Please subscribe if you are interested in these videos and you want to see more. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!